Presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
We are continuing a very informative discussion we had last week about zoning, where my dear friend Liz Duenas from Remax Diamond Realty, Guam. Half a day, Liz?
Half a day.
So we were talking last week about zoning, how you change from residential zone to business, commercial, agricultural perhaps, and everything like that. But what we didn't cover was the cost to do so and the time it actually takes to get that done from beginning to end. Because you made it seem like this is just, you can do so on your lunch break and it's,
No. It is a process. Like, for example, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't try to rezone a piece of property and do it myself. I would hire a consultant to do that. And there are
yourself as a realtor or yourself as a property owner?
As a property owner,
Okay.
or even as a realtor, because there's so many. It is a process. For example, I do have one property that I represent. I have it listed, and we're actually rezoning it from agricultural to commercial zone. And the property actually fronts Marine Drive. There's a lot of assumptions that just because the property fronts a main road or highway, that it would be zoned commercial. It's not necessarily so. You would have to check with Public Works to see what zone designation it carries. So, for example, I have one property that fronts Route 3. It's taken about a year to get that rezoned. So it could take anywhere from 6 months to a year to get a property rezoned. There is a process. So, again, we hire a consultant to get that done. They would have to appear before the Land Use Commission, the Guam Land Use Commission, to apply to get approval. In that process, there are different committees within the government agency that have the clearing process, or they have input regarding that piece of property. So, for example, if it's next to a school or a church, the mayor's office, there's a number of committees that have feedback. They can say, well, we have no objections to it, and that may be a particular zone. So, for example, the property we were rezoning, we were asking for the designation of M zone, which is industrial, but it was near a school. So the committees came back and said, the mayor said, well, we're not going to approve an industrial zone so close to the school, but they were willing to approve a commercial zone. So instead of industrial, we kind of switched it to a commercial zone.
So this very often isn't, thumbs up, thumbs down. They might actually give you some options.
They may give you options of what is acceptable.
Okay.
And even when you're doing an industrial zone, normally they want to find out what's the purpose. Is there a particular type of business that's going in there? So if it's a crushing plant or something that is detriment to the neighborhood, or whatever is currently in place, because they'll look at that. What is currently in place within that neighborhood, and is there impact to that particular neighborhood?
Or like an operation that has a furnace or something and they're always burning.
Yes, exactly. So that is why they would ask feedback from the different committees that have purview over environmental issues, over the neighborhood, which is like the mayor's office.
Now, if I can pedal back to something you just said when we first started talking, you said, I wouldn't do this myself. It is an option. I'm discerning from that you actually could do this solo.
You could probably do it, but there's so many steps and processes that I prefer. This is just a personal thing. I prefer to hire someone that has done this many times and have gone through the ropes of getting the proper approvals, because when you appear in front of all the different committees, like the Land Use Commission, they'll ask you questions and they'll ask you the pertinence of the business or the purpose. There's also a procedure where you have to put up a sign. There's just different requirements that the government, they have hoops you have to jump through. I don't have the time, nor do I have the patience.
Ombi just cut somebody a check.
No, plus...
That is their protocol, though.
Plus, some of the consultants you would hire, they've done this for years. So they know what's doable, what's not doable, and how they work the process. And they've appeared before the commission probably a number of times. And, there's I'd rather work with the ones who have the expertise, in other words.
Okay, now speaking of cutting checks, I did ask you about cost. We've kind of sidestepped that issue so far and everything. What are we looking
I know
at?
in the past, it could be anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 or even more. I think it would be dependent on the time required to get this process going, and
And this doesn't matter in terms of acreage or square footage or anything of the land. It's just like that is part of like those are processing fees.
Yes, those are processing fees.
Okay.
And don't quote me, because
Sure.
those fees change, and it would be dependent on the consultant you're working with. One consultant could charge that, another could charge you double the price, because they know the complexity of what you're trying to get done. So for example, if you're dealing with a hotel or you're dealing with a golf course, again, there's different lines of expertise that handle that particular process.
Yeah.
Then I would pick who normally has handled the hotel processing or the golf course or this big development.
As opposed to like DJ Joser's Snack Shack.
Yes,
That's
I would
little
go
tiny
to a
property.
top gun.
Yeah.
If that project is so important and is very costly, then it's worth it to me or to any developer to hire that top gun to get that project through the approval process.
Well, if you don't mind me saying, you are my top gun.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information. All right, everybody, we are going to take a quick commercial break, but Maverick and Goose will be right back after this.